Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Another Monday night. We are back in action. No Bickler today. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, heads up because he's in the neighborhood and he might be right behind you. Let me check this changes background over here. So getting ready for the Podathon, which we will talk about. But I'm your host, as always, Timucin here in Chicago. After we're like a little bit late over here, we had some technical difficulties. Gally's microphone is what's the best way to put this? A little sensitive, Gally?
I'd say it's a little bit sensitive. It's got its own temperament and it has its own decision on what should be heard from me tonight, which probably means nobody needs to hear from me.
Yeah, so if it occasionally goes out, we just know that microphone does not agree. So it just goes on and out because we were testing this stuff before. Just wait till we take all this equipment over there to Carragher's and see if it works over there. It should be good times. But I guess let's start with that. Sir Z, Brian already in the comments. Welcome aboard if you're watching us on YouTube. As you hop on, hopefully first thing you do out of habit now is hit that thumbs up. We're trying to get the word as much as possible. Alan, Hassan, everybody welcome aboard. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, thanks as always. Be sure to, if you like this content, be sure to kind of like follow us on YouTube and or at least Facebook, because obviously we do a lot more broadcasting, but we only publish this podcast on Spotify as of now. So let's talk about that first. Let's get to this because we do, I should say, need a lot of help on this still. We're less than a week away. We're down to 9. We need 9 more hourly sponsors. So $100 to $500. Please, please, please get involved. Get your supporters club, your group, your business, company, whatever it might be involved, so we do get the last 9 hours filled with sponsors as well. We've had like a bunch of supporter clubs, official, non-official supporter clubs, a bunch of personal sponsors as well, which we are really, really grateful for. Really, really appreciate it. So we have 15 in, 9 to go. So please help us out and spread the word. This time, well, not this time, it's less than a week from now. We're going to start Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern, and Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern. It should be exciting. Jamie was asking yesterday in the comments. I figured, hey, why don't we talk about it here? But what we're doing for getting ready for this. I know you're probably bringing a pillow after last year's experience, but what else are you doing?
Yeah, not much, to be honest. Praying, hoping, wishing. But for the 10 people watching right now, please get in that thing, like it, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. We know if you are liking, so we would really appreciate it if everybody who's watching right
Big
now,
brother is watching you.
actually would give it a like. We could really use it. I'm not doing much, to be totally honest. I think I'm gonna bring a pillow, maybe if I can find one, but I am taking the train in, so I have to limit how much stuff I'm bringing. I also have to remember that I don't have a hotel room Saturday night, so everything when I check out of my hotel Saturday morning is coming with me to Carragher's for 24 hours. So I'm trying to really limit my overall packing, and with all the equipment we're bringing, that is quite a bit in itself. So
yeah.
It's going to be a really good time. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see you guys in New York City. I can't wait to get at this again. And, I'm sure my doctor and the physical therapist is looking forward to follow-up appointments about sciatica and stretching.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. We're going to meet John in person, hopefully, for the very first time. So that should be exciting. I think Sunday morning he's going to join us. We're already doing the schedule for the hours because then the sponsors, if they're interested, they can hop on with us during their hour, talk about their supporters group or whatever it might be. Liverpool, heck, it's 24 hours. We'll be talking about all kinds of weird stuff right now. Yes, don't worry. Bickler won't even know where or what he's doing towards the end, says Brian. Yes. Honestly, last year, I thought it was going to be a breeze because I'm a late night dude. I'm usually up till 2 in the morning and stuff like that, which now over the last week or so, I have not been. So I got to kind of get back to that, I guess. But I thought it would be kind of easy, get past 2, 3 o'clock. And then before you know it, the game starts, will kind of flow through. It was not so. It got really tricky around think it was like 3, 4 o'clock. But I feel like if I prep, like if I say to myself, I gotta go to bed early, I gotta get this much out of sleep and stuff, it definitely won't happen. So I'm just gonna wing it. Hopefully, we'll get enough sleep. We are driving too, gonna go make a stop on the way to Niagara Falls and stuff. Making a mini trip out of it with Angie at the same time. So that could be a huge mistake by itself. All that driving and stuff. We'll find out, but we'll stay awake. I think the fact that we're on site with a bunch of people. I did not realize, by the way, that Carragher's is open till 4 in the morning.
Yeah. That's New York City for you. I mean, luckily for us, we have dinner plans, at 10 o'clock the night before. So it's not like we'll be going to bed anytime soon. My goal is to stay up until like 3 or 4 in the morning if I can, which is going to be difficult hanging out with Bickler because I have a feeling I'm going to be ready to fall asleep as soon as humanly possible after that dinner. But if I feel like if I can stay up till about then maybe I can sleep till like 10 or 11. And I didn't do a good job of that last year. Like last year, I woke up at 6:37 in the morning, and then I was like waiting
Yes.
for the thing to start. And I think that added to it. It made for like a 28-hour shift. So I'm
The
hoping
irony
this year
is,
it's just 24 hours.
I don't know if you remember, but last year, I mean, for those who don't know, Gally and I are usually a bit earlier than Bickler because he's shuffling kids around and doing all kinds of stuff in the
He
background.
showed up an hour early?
Yeah, and then normally Bickler shows up like if lately actually I'll give him credit. He's been like 5-10 minutes early, which is like really early for Bickler. And he was like an hour early to that thing saying like, well, is there a link? And I'm like, dude, what are you worried about? We got another hour, relax. I thought he was really stressing over it. I didn't realize he got his all hours mixed up. But either way, it should be a lot of fun, and anything is going to be more than zero. But really, really do need your guys up. And I do keep saying this, and I know there's a bunch of people watching right now. There's going to be a bunch of people listening to this. We have till Saturday to get these hours filled. 9 more people, 9 individuals, 9 businesses, 9 supporter groups, 9 official Liverpool supporter clubs, whatever it might be. But give us a hand, spread the words. If you are not able to do it, see if somebody else is going to be able to do it. And hopefully we'll get them all filled. The silent auction has started. We'll be sharing that as well. One thing we're doing different this year with the silent auction is it's going to go on for another week after the podcast. So it's not going to end the night of the podcast like we did last year. The GoFundMe is also active. So we'll send those links out. We really wanted to get all the sponsors situated, the schedules out, and then we'll have like a whole week to constantly push all avenues over here. And don't forget, that's we also have the shirts through our sponsor JLF Fashions available. So Dara says, what do we need? What do we need, Gally? You tell Dara what we need for a sponsor. What does it take to be a sponsor?
It takes $100, and that
$500.
$1 to $500, anywhere in there that you are comfortable with. That gets you an hour long, an opportunity to come join us for the show if you choose. It also helps us guarantee money that's going back. You can also bid on our items at our silent auction, which Timucin just mentioned. We'll share the link in the show at some point as well. And then, of course, we'll also have a GoFundMe that is also running that day as well, and also through the week following. So I think, did we decide, Timucin, we're going to run it through the Friday, like through the match, or
probably
are we going to run it
until
Saturday
the season
morning?
starts is going to be the best way, because last year people kind of like, as they were watching the podcast, they could not bid at the same time. And like obviously it's what's called a popcorn bidding, I think is what they call it. So when somebody bids, you get like another 15 minutes to increase that bid, because ultimately the goal is to not sneak in at the last second and win, but ideally generate as many funds as possible for the 23 foundation.
But
go ahead.
If anyone is listening or watching or hearing us on the pod and wants to be involved, either with their supporters group personally or a business that they're associated to, please send us a message through any of our socials, and we'll give you ideas, what hours we have remaining, what that sponsorship looks like. And then if you do want to join us during the 24-hour pod, you can remotely join us in, or you can fly to New York City and come visit us.
Yeah, I mean, the Jersey Shore group is going to join us physically. Actually, they were going to ask if the Brooklyn group would be interested as well. But yeah, so ultimately, that's what we're looking for, is just more hourly sponsors initially, and then we'll go with the silent auction and stuff as well. So That's having said all that, please, please, please just don't have it go in one ear, go out the other, because I know we talked about it a lot, probably, but more than the regular listeners that are here day in and day out. I want to make sure those guys pass the word, they get involved, but also like others that are kind of catching maybe like one episode a week or something like that, especially like the podcast listeners get to find out as well. But I know we got to give the people what they want. We did just reach 10,000 hours of listening, actually, or watch hours on YouTube just the other day. And YouTube said, continue to give people what they want. And my assumption is that's more songs for one and more trivia for two. So I'll do the trivia. I'll do more songs later on. That'll be in the works over here. But we'll do the trivia. It's actually it's a good one, and it's actually, I think you will get this with some.
That never happens.
Yeah, but I always try to be optimistic over here. Okay, so Crystal Palace with the 13th different club that Liverpool faces in their 25th appearance in the Community Shield, which used to be the Charity Shield. Mind you, I think I literally still call it Charity Shield occasionally. So same difference. It's a plate. Which three clubs has Liverpool faced most often in this event? Which accounts for 12 of them, but which three teams and how many times have they faced them? I think you should be able to get that.
I think I should not. It's FA Cup and or league title champ. I'll guess United as one of them.
That is correct. How many times do you think with United? Bear in mind, this goes way back, so
it's 12 total, right? Is that what you said?
These three teams that we played the most is 12 total, correct?
Well, then I'm just gonna guess because I do know how to do math, and it's 3, and it's the same amount. I'm gonna say it's 4.
That is wrong. 5 times with United.
So it's not the same.
No, they're not all the same. It's 12 of them in total out of these, because the Palace is going to be the 13th different team we play. So you got United, 2 more teams. I think the second one is easy. The third one is
it Arsenal?
Arsenal is another one. Arsenal is 4 times. United was 65, 77, 83, 90, and 2001. And Arsenal was 79, 89, 2002, and 2020. I think that's one of them, actually, he brags about winning.
So we have, all right. So one
left.
It was Arsenal and City, or Arsenal and United. And it was 5 and 4.
Saying Chelsea.
So it would be 3 more. So somebody we played 3 times in the Charity Shield.
That math is not that bad. The math is really kicking in.
You think this guy might do payroll for a living?
God forbid how those people are getting paid, but yeah, sure, go ahead.
Scary world they live in. I don't want to say Chelsea because I feel like this is going to be a left field one. Like, I just feel like it's a team that's just random. I'm just going to guess. And Arsenal. No, I said Arsenal already. I know. It's Sir Z says Everton in the chat, so I'm just going to say it, and I don't think it is by any means, but I'll just guess it.
It is, because Sir Z is Googling.
That's the Google King, and that's why I went with it every once in a while. So I actually got the question right. I got all 3 and figured out the 12. Look at that.
So, yeah, Everton 3 times, 66, 84, and 86 is when we played them. Played Leeds United, West Ham United, and Manchester City twice. Huddersfield Town, Chelsea, Leicester City, Southampton, Tottenham, and Wimbledon. When it used to be, we played them a single each. 16 wins out of the 24. One of them is after penalties, and 5, I guess they used to have shared wins for a draw, they didn't do the penalties. We just go to penalties now, which I kind of like, actually like, as long as it's not overtime or anything like that, because we do play Friday, so we're not gonna have as much time in games like the full week. Especially that time is even more important right now, early on in the season. But we had a lot of action today, so we'll spend probably most of the time talking about that. But and I know you got to watch most of them, correct? Both matches over there, and I watched both as well. Let's start with the first one. So we had two different sets, which was when I first saw the lineup of the first one, it looked a little scary, but I was actually pretty impressed with the overall play. We'll go game at a time. I kind of like want to talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. So let's start with like what we liked out of like the first game, the first lineup.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I think the easiest thing to like out of the first matchup is real. I mean,
Yeah.
once again, the game kicks off. Obviously, for those who weren't settled, figured out how to find All Access Red or whatever app you were using to stream it, you probably showed up and you were like, "Shit, they're already up 1-0." And yeah, it was the kid again, and it was a really great goal. I mean, what I loved is I love seeing McAllister start the match. I did love that. I love seeing McAllister kind of right off the rip be on the front foot and be ready to, he takes the ball off the, I forget which player it was for Bilbao, but he basically takes it off him right at the halfway line. He makes one quick pass. The kid takes about
Yep.
10 dribbles, and the next thing you know, the ball's in the back of the net. Um, Exceptionally young talent, even more exceptionally confident. And I just think the composure and the poise he shows at such a young age is the type of thing you can't coach. And I don't want to get, I see Golden Boy, and I hear everyone talk about, you can't teach that type of talent, and age means nothing. Either you're ready or you're not. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, because you still got to protect the physical and the mental side of the professional's career. But he looks a completely different animal than he did last year when he wowed us at times in the League Cup and in short little stints, because he now looks like a man who understands how to physically compete at this level. So I thought his goal was exceptional. I thought it was great that he took on two players. I thought it was even better that he was willing to go inside and had the confidence to take the shot, because there were two passes that were on, and God knows you're ready to yell at him to pass,
Yeah.
and rightfully so at times. But I feel like his decision making in the final third has been his greatest improvement. And I think we're starting to see it with some of his finishing crosses, just kind of his interplay. I thought he was really, really good on the goal. I think he might have been even better on the assist.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I kind of try to kind of keep my enthusiasm down on the kid, try not to get overexcited because of his age. And I know, like you said, there's so many players out there now that are like 16, 17, lighting the world. And it's not like, the sport is totally different than what it was like 10, 15 years ago. None of these kids would get a chance at this age and be able to play with the big boys and stuff like that. They would be loaned out, or they would be really slowly phased in. I don't know if it was being a lot more careful. The kids were not as ready. It's an investment that the clubs have to make now. I don't know. You can pick your reason, but every time I try to kind of like lower my expectations and kind of like tone them down, you see him play, and it's hard not to get excited in terms of like the possibilities of what he can do. And it does feel like more and more he's making a case to be able to get quite a few minutes this season on the first team, and like maybe possibly back up Gakpo, and at least roll the dice and like back up Gakpo initially. The only thing that I think he does go back into, and you can kind of take that as confidence, which partially it is. I do like him taking on people. That's part of his like direct style and all that. There are times, and I've seen this, and we talked about this before. There are times where when he was playing the U21s and stuff like that, I feel like he takes on too many people at once, and not be able to kind of like take advantage of the fact that, hey, there's a bunch of people in front of you. That means somebody's open. Somebody's got time, somebody's open, you got to lift your head up. I think he's improved a lot in that. And in the preseason, some of those things we can kind of look past, and you're like, oh, it's preseason, that's fine. He's trying to show himself and stuff. But I think that's one area he still has to improve. I think it's almost like it's nature, right? Like if you played like that for a couple of years and maybe probably most of his young career, however long that might have been that he's playing. So it's kind of hard to work that in the system. You can sometimes see him almost be like, oh shit, that's right. And then like dropping to Costas or something like that, realizing that he can kind of like recycle the ball and keep possession. I think that will come with time. But is it too early to kind of pencil him in the depth chart, if you will, as the left winger backing up Gakpo? And it's not an area we will not shop for, especially if you get Isak and you can sometimes like Ekitike over there.
Well, and I'm going to keep it on the host topic track, so we won't get into the second game. But I think part of the reason I'm confident he could be the sixth attacker, like if we consider Chiesa last year's sixth attacker, right? Do I believe that Rio Ngamoa could play as many minutes as Chiesa played last year and do more for a title winning or title defending side? I do. Because I think there's probably going to be more games this year, because I think this side, scary as this is to say out loud, I think this side's going to be better than last year's side.
Yeah.
I think they're going to play more games than last season. And I think for that, you could see him be that League Cup, some FA Cups, maybe even that random pot 3, pot 4 Champions League. You even give him a start on the left and just kind of roll him out there. But we'll get to the second match. But I think we saw a lot from Ekitike in different positions of the pitch, including out wide at times, just drifting naturally there and kind of overlapping with Gakpo, where I think you can see that that kid has an immense amount of talent too. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he's forced to play out wide left. And in some ways, I have to like raise my hand and laugh at myself for making fun of Newcastle when they were like, we're going to play Ekitike and Isak together and we might play a 4-3-3. And I was like, go fuck yourself. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then I'm literally talking myself into how we're going to play a 4-3-3 at times with Ekitike and Isak together. We'll get to Isak, I'm sure, at some point of this show, because there's all kinds of news bumbling out there now that, it might take a step forward or two in the next 10, 15 hours, depending on what Sesko decides to do. But I was really excited with Rio. I was also really, really intrigued by the way McAllister played. And I thought Trey Neone, once again, another youngster, did a really good job. And the fact that they played him at center back and he made those back posts as a central defender, you must have been pretty proud of him. A kid playing out of position. What did he have? 3 back post clearances that were basically going to be goals if the young man isn't completely switched on. And that to me looks like a kid who is like, he's got that James Milner in him, that Endo in him right now. Like, whatever you tell me to do, coach, I will do it. As long as you promise me I'm not playing with the under 21s on the weekend, and I'm not playing at Blackburn.
Yeah, I think with Neone, what I do like is, and I think that comes from him when he's on the ball, he can see things. I mean, that's a talent. That's something that's really difficult to teach. Like he can see where the ball is gonna go, where the runs are, and everything like that. He can see the pitch a lot better. And I think that's because he can do that. It almost felt like it helps him defend because he can think how the attacking player will think in terms of like where the ball will go. And a couple of those, he basically almost made the run the same time as the attacking player. And for a guy who's playing out of position, mind you, we keep saying that, but I'll have to say, he does look. We were watching. Angie came in for a couple of minutes. She thought it was Gravenberg because he is getting a lot bigger and he plays very similar in terms of that, like the lanky run that he does, and like good on the ball, very calm, collected. And I think that's something like really Slot likes in terms of how like he likes the center backs to be that calmness on the ball, see the whole pitch, and be able to actually create from the back as opposed to just doing the diagonal or like relying on the back and stuff like that. Very comfortable on the ball, and I thought he did like really, really good. And actually, he's not. He always looked like this like little skinny boy kind of a deal, but man, like when you see him coming out the pitch, he actually has some height to him, and he has put on a lot of muscle. And I think that's why a year ago it'd be night and day. You would never say, "How was that Gravenberg? That dude is huge, and Leone's tiny," kind of a thing on the pitch. But the way he is now, he is. I mean, I'm sure he knows that that's the next step to be able to get better and stuff. Yeah, but very impressed with him. And I think his play, and I said this last week in the last preseason too, enables you to perhaps move on from Elliott and get as much as you want from Elliott. Because if you have that spot where Elliott normally would get minutes, I think you can give those minutes to Neoni very comfortably and like expect him to do a good job for you, whether that's the League Cup, FA Cup, or whatever that might be. But the disappointment, I guess. By the way, I did see Dara mention it, and I will admit that I thought Costas was pretty darn solid today too. I was almost like maybe he plays more physical and solid when he knows there is no Van Dijk over there to rely on to clean up the mess, kind of a thing. But I thought he was really good in stepping up to break up the passes. But in some ways, this was their backups at the same time too, so you kind of have to take all that with a
I
grain
did
of
think he
salt.
was good. To be fair to him, I thought he was
Yeah.
good, and I thought he was good on both ends of the pitch. I thought he was good in defense. I thought he was good in going forward. I thought he actually took the opportunities to attack and institute himself into the attack. Where I think at times I feel like he just always looks like he just woke up, literally and figuratively. Like he doesn't know exactly where he's supposed to be or what he's supposed to do. And you're like, but you've been here for 5 years. Like
Yeah.
at some point, you're either going to pick this up or you're not. I thought he was very good today. Obviously, the first half was interesting. You know, they go out there and they set themselves up. You know, you don't have Virgil, so you never know what's it's going to look like in the way that they set themselves up. You know, we had a very makeshift center half type of setup.
Yep.
It it was just one of those kind of surprising ones at times. Stevenson did okay at right back, and then at times it was a little bit kind of like you could tell he was kind of like on roller skates, but he's also playing along a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid who's not a center back as his center back. So I don't know that that's exactly fair. I guess in the first half, if you asked me what, if anything, I was disappointed in, I think it's probably Harvey Elliott again. I got to be fair. I thought his touches were weak. I thought he drifted in and out of the match. I think Sir Z at one point in Discord said something like, is Harvey trying to play himself out of the transfer window with all these heavy touches and the way he's playing? He almost looks to me like a guy who's stuck between trying to do all the right things to impress, but also trying maybe not to make sure he gets hurt when he's not at full fitness. Because I do think coming back from his international tournament hurt him because he wasn't training with the guys. And I think he was thrown into matches right away, maybe even more than he should have been, where normally you'd let a guy get up to match fitness before you played him so much. But maybe if you got a guy in the shop window, you kind of want him to keep playing after he has such a great tournament. I feel like Harvey's in a really tough spot. And after he scored the goal, he almost looked like, I'm going to take every moment of this in because this is probably going to be the last time I ever play at Anfield. And it might be the last time I score a goal in front of these supporters in this uniform. And he clapped off all four sides of the stadium after he scored the goal, which is kind of telling. It's sad. It's sad to see a kid with so much promise probably on his way out, but I think it's what's best for both parties, the club and himself.
Probably. I mean, for the long run, career wise, I would like to have a Kwanzaa like deal on that one if we're moving on from some kind of a buyback or something in that deal to be able to, because he is so young still that, you know, maybe he grows into the position and like develops more physically. I think it's like kind of tricky for him too, because he's trying to play within the setup But so he's not trying to like do stuff like, you know, Bandok was doing or Rio was doing to kind of like show themselves. And it's a bit easier for a winger to do that too, because you can do a take on and stuff like that. And it's almost okay if you do a take on and lose the ball because you're a winger, you're not going to get past every time. I feel like it's kind of like a bit easier for wingers to show themselves and be like, oh, look at that. Look at what he did. He's trying to play with him, but you do still expect him to have more of an impact in a game like this. And I would think when you look at overall, like the midfield, you know, McAllister, who obviously, you know, is going to be, you know, calm. He did a couple of like, you know, like giving up the ball and stuff like that, not knowing where he was at or not knowing where the pressure was coming from. But overall, I thought Curtis did well too, very comfortable on the ball. Looked like Harvey was almost the one that did not show himself as much. And when you're like that in the preseason game, it's really, really hard to get in there. I do feel for him, like you said, because I feel like these are chances you expect him to kind of outshine, similar to what he did in that tournament when he was playing with like the kids kind of a deal. And you're just not getting that.
And to an honorable mention format, or, you know, I think we have to give Ben Doak credit. We've been critical of him at times. I thought Doak actually put himself in positions today that helped the team, created problems for the defense. But more importantly than anything, if you're watching that match and you're Leeds United, you can't tell me you're not looking at that player and saying to yourself, that guy could do a job for us. Or if you're Everton and you're watching that guy going like, how can we create 5 to 10 more opportunities to score goals this year? The type of 5 to 10 goals that might change us from being, you know, deep in a relegation battle to somewhere between 18 or somewhere between, you know, that range we always say where 15 teams can finish between 12th and 9th.
Yeah.
Only 4 teams can, but we find 15 every year that we predict will. To me, Ben Doak looked like a guy that can play a big part, especially if it was a good setup. Like, to me, it screams, let's pay 45 million for Gahey so they can pay 30 for Ben Doak. Like, Crystal Palace and Ben Doak look like a match made in heaven. And I think it would be like perfect for all parties around. Ben Doak probably isn't at Liverpool at the end of this transfer window. But after today's performance, if he was our 6th attacker, I wouldn't be angry. I just don't think he's necessary. So I think he will move on.
Angry is probably not the right word. Yeah, I would not be angry, but I would not be. Okay, let me ask you this. Would you rather have that 6th person be Chiesa or Bando? And the way I asked that is not for the long run. Obviously, for like long run, you might go a Bando, but I don't know. 70th minute, you're gonna put another. He's gonna throw another attacker in. Do you want Chiesa warming up or Bando warming up? Because I do want Chiesa warming up.
Probably Chiesa. The problem is I don't think Slot wants either of them. So Ben Doak will probably be playing somewhere else in the league, and Chiesa will probably be playing at Atalanta after they finally move on from Ademola Lookman.
Yeah, once that deal is done. There's so many deals that are like kind of like really dragging in this transfer window, right? Like things either happen in 2 days or it's taking 2 months is what it feels like. So that's another one of those deals that might, similar to like Sesko in terms of might start the dominoes where like somebody else moves over there, and obviously Chiesa will be there. I thought he did decent today, but let's go over. Yeah, see, like a lot of people are saying Bandok, I think as like a youth and stuff, but I do not see. I almost see a better upside. It feels odd to say coming out of Chiesa than Bandok. I don't know. I just don't see him developing. You look at today, even today with a lot less experience, Rio looks like he has a much higher ceiling to me than Doak. And you're not going. I mean, that's probably should be the other way around with the experience Doak has. And he already, within the limited time with his age, has had injuries and stuff like that. So I just think overall, I think you're right in terms of him not being here on the long run. Would I be angry, like you said? No, I wouldn't be angry, but I'd be like, ugh, I don't know about this. Because when the time comes and Mo is gone and all that kind of stuff during AFCON, when everybody rotates and takes one more step up in the depth chart, if you have injuries and stuff, that could be dangerous.
Real quick before we go to the second game, I do think it's fair we should say, and it's a fair statement, Andy Robertson was pretty good at center back today, especially for playing alongside a kid and having Simicast on his left, which basically is like giving you a broken leg and no crutches. Like you got Simicast on one side and a kid who doesn't play center back on the other, and you're not a center back. I thought he looked good there. I don't want to hear about how we don't need to buy a center back because all these other guys are playing center back and doing well. But I do think you see why Schlott has some confidence in saying that. And then the other thing, we won't spend a lot of time on it, but Darwin Nunez was good today. The goal, the assist, both were taken well. He played well. He actually played within himself. Someone asked in the chat, did it look like Darwin was saying his goodbyes? It absolutely looked like Darwin was saying his goodbyes. You know why? Because normally I think if Darwin was put out there with this lineup, with a 16-year-old and Ben Doak and Curtis Jones behind him and Harvey Elliott, Darwin would have tried to bend the star on the pitch. And I don't think for 45 minutes, Darwin tried to actually make himself the story. I think he just tried to go out there and enjoy some football, scored a goal. He played pretty well. He looks like a guy who knows he's about to get a big move. He's about to get a move away. And I think he just wants to stay fit. And I think he's feeling good about scoring goals, which all strikers should. And if that leads him to go to Italy or leads him to go to Saudi Arabia and score a buttload of goals this year, good for him. He's having himself a good preseason. You know, all accounts, he came in very emotional with losing his grandfather, and then he was very close to Jota, as by all accounts, right? Good on him for showing up, doing the job. And if we're going to give Diaz credit, and I heard Matus on the morning show, you know, questioning Isak and the temperament and all that, you got to give Darwin some credit for showing up this summer, looking like he came in fit, ready to go, and working hard, regardless of what the future holds. And this is not Gally advocating for him to stay. I said a couple weeks ago I thought he might stay because that was more about not getting Isak and what might happen in the transfer window. But I think if we're going to raise our hands and be honest about good performances, bad performances, Darwin Nunez got to be someone who's on the good list. He's not on the naughty list so far in the preseason. He's done a good job by putting in a professional shift and showing up and doing the right things. If we're going to credit Diaz for showing up to photo ops, we should credit a guy for actually showing up on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that was a totally different conversation, though, to be fair. That was just totally different in terms of, like, him not... I mean, we're talking about Diaz and how he carried himself in the offseason. He wasn't a guy that was pouting. He was still doing his thing as all that stuff was happening in the background. That was that conversation. With Nunez, yeah, I do agree. Like, today he was decent, and he has been overall decent, I think, in the preseason. But you still see the same things that I always see. You see in the second game, Ekitike's pressing compared to Nunez pressing in terms of the angles that are taken and stuff like that. I think to me, it's still night and day. I honestly still have a slight, I want to say fear, but a worry, let's go that way, that if the Isak thing does not happen, I don't know if there's a world where he stays, especially if we don't have an offer that's like good coming in from AC Milan or Saudi Arabia and stuff. Because let's face it, Saudi Arabia one is probably a little bit dependent on the Isak one as well.
They're talking 90 million. 90 million.
Well, that's, but you know, well, I don't know if we're gonna get in that. We spent way too much freaking time on the first game, to be honest with you. I just said, should you give me a good and a bad? You gave me like 5 goods and 3 bads for God's sake.
Well,
okay, let's get to the second game. Let's get to the second game. Give me one, only one, just one, one good, like the biggest positive that you take out of the second game. Because I felt the second game had like a ton of them in some ways.
There's so many goods in the second game, but the number one good thing is always the same good thing as always. Mo Salah is the best player on the planet, and he looks right now like he's already at tip-top form, and I don't care that he missed a penalty. Mo Salah is the best player. He is the best attacker on the planet. He can do anything he wants, and Florian Wirtz is going to make him better, and that's scary for the rest of the world.
That's probably the thing. I liked it. That was good. See, that was only one. But then you did this last time, and then you were like, and also,
I'm going to have 5
you brought 4 more people into the conversation.
We're going to get there.
So I think That was probably the best thing, is the amount of interchangeable parts and the movement more than anything else. And I think that's what made everybody kind of look real good. And I think a lot of that is probably coming from Wirtz, in terms of like the runs he makes into the box and stuff. But like Ekitike, Mo, I really like the movements they set up. We didn't see Kirkes push up as much as I thought he would, but you can kind of see it on the right hand side when Frimpong, some of those triangles they set up and stuff. Like, probably the biggest positive for me overall as as a game was how well it's working. Like, you have that 10-15 minute period over there where they just looked freaking unstoppable. And I know they did not connect, they didn't finish, and they didn't get the goals in that run, but it's like throughout, like you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the first game, where like Ekitika slides out, Gakpo comes in, Ekitika does that overlap for like Gakpo and stuff. On the other side, you have like the relationship with like Wirtz and Mo. You saw Ekitika seeing Mo as a diagonal from the other side and stuff like that. There's a lot of movement up top, and there's a lot of players on the pitch willing to pass and reward that movement. And I think when you have so many people that are game changers, that's key, where they don't try to change the game by themselves, but they work together to change the game.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with trying to pick out one positive from what was ultimately a really, really good second match. Overall, for 90 minutes, they were really good. They had the breakdowns on the set plays, and we're going to have to work on that, right? They're going to have to figure that
Yeah.
stuff out. There were a couple key mistakes, and I think in some ways, Slot is probably going to like the fact that, yeah, we scored 7 goals today, but it could have been 9 or 10. And
Oh, easy. Yep.
we shouldn't have conceded 4. And I think that's going to be what or 3 or whatever it was. He's going to like hunker in on that. I really do believe that. Soboslai and Gakpo both look like they're ready to play 90 minutes right now, like fully fit,
Yeah.
firing. And I'm really excited about Gakpo. The way he's playing on the left, it's almost like he knows this is my position to stake my claim at. And before you go sign Isak or bring Ekitike out to compete with me, I'm going to show you why I should be here. And Soboslai looks more dangerous from a deeper position. He's doing just as much running. He's doing just as much work.
Yeah.
He's winning the ball back just as much. And he's popping up in really great positions. And I know you had some things about Wirtz and the dribbling into areas, and I don't disagree with you. But the stuff that man can do with a football at his feet, and I just remind myself every time I watch him play that he's 9 months younger than Harvey Elliott. And we were so excited about Harvey Elliott, and he's younger. I mean, it's scary. And we haven't even gotten to talking about Ekitike or Frimpong, who was rampant. Like, it was just a really, really good second. The second match is what gave me the giddies. I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, especially that first half, you're like, holy cow. I mean, when that first goal happened and stuff, that's when I put the excellent thing, because I was like, oh my God, this is unreal. Like, what's happening out there? And I think, look, with Wirtz, I think my biggest concern was like sometimes him, and I know we were talking with like, you and Rich and stuff like that on our Discord channel as we were watching the game. That will probably get better as he anticipates where people are going to make those runs to. I talked about earlier about the movement and stuff like that. So that will improve over time in terms of, and I think, part of that is players around him getting used to how he's playing and, be able to get ready to cover it if he does try to take on a dribble. I did not like some of the locations he tries to pick up that dribble, but I think that's partially because everybody else is not ready for it either. So they're like, oh, wait, what'd you do over there? No. We don't do that over here. Like, you lost the ball right over there. And then, like everybody has to kind of like recover. But what I love seeing, and that's basically shows quality in passing for those young kids out there. I mean, like the quality in passing is where he gets that ball. Anybody can pass the ball from like one point to the other guy. If I told you pass to Gakpo, you can pass it to Gakpo. But is it going to be behind Gakpo? Is Gakpo going to have to slow down? There are a couple of passes he did, a few to Gakpo, a few to Mo, where it's like it's perfectly paced to a full speed running player. And I think as he gets used to, he does a pass to Mo in the second half that the guy
It's
injured himself like slide tackling. Honestly, if he's a bit more ready for that pace, like Mo's pace, because if that's the Frimpong is probably there because of the top speed. I think as he gets used to people's speeds and everything like that, because the skill is there. I mean, it's amazing some of the balls that he was like, spraying around in terms of where the ball is going and how it's so easy to control going full speed, and they're not just like, shot into the dude where he has to take time to control and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, he was so good today. He really was. And I thought Frimpong was really good too. And it's not just going forward. You can see the pace. He's rampant. He just when he takes on someone, the couple of the interchanges with him and Mo, the little 1-2s they were playing together and releasing each other. And at that one point where Mo dropped deep and Frimpong dropped it back to Mo, and then
Yeah.
Mo slipped Frimpong in, and you just saw the fullback be like, "What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to stay with Mo Salah, or am I supposed to follow this guy down?" And then Salah just like kind of waltzed into the box, and you were like, "This is gonna be really really fun to watch." And you can see from Frimpong, but I thought even more impressive for me than Frimpong going forward today was Frimpong actually defending,
Yeah,
because
Konate
he
was in
didn't
shock.
he was not, yeah, cool. He's a right back, people. He's a right back. I He wasn't put up against, Mother Mary, sister of the poor's backup left winger. He had a guy that Barcelona tried to
Yep.
spend their entire summer. And in my opinion, Nico Williams was maybe the quietest player on the entire pitch. You wouldn't make me believe that was a guy that Arsenal was quoted to pay
Exactly. Yep.
80, 100 million. And I thought Frimpong did a great job. And I thought you had a great line when you made the comment about Konate was sprinting back and then realized I don't even have to go into this space. The defender's already back here,
Yeah.
because that defender's actually faster than him. Like they have a defender faster than Konate, and they might have two because Kirkez is pretty rapid himself. Kirkez a little quiet today, but both guys put in great first time balls into the box too. Where on
Yeah.
another day there'll be a guy getting there, and as much as I loved Ekatike today, I just envision Verts dropping those perfectly weighted balls and Isak running onto him in the box. And I've seen that movie play out already in the Premier League, and it's usually a guy celebrating a goal because that's what happens when Isak has an opportunity to score. So it's just crazy to think about how positive, and not just positive, how important it's going to be moving forward. I do think in some ways, Slot's like, we're going to fix this defense. But if we score 4 goals a match, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a lot of victories.
Yeah, I think so this says Frimpong was great, played like he's been playing for us for years. I felt at times he almost like was moving faster than like the legs were moving faster than the brain, or the brain was moving faster than the legs, or whatever. Like he would like kind of like do
Fair.
something like where he would dribble out of bounds or something like that. But the willingness to, I think, your backs are always going to be faster than your center backs in most cases. I know Trent was not the fastest guy, but Robertson had some top speeds when he was younger, obviously. But the willingness to go back and track back full speed that we were not used to, I think that's like the nice. If I'm Konate, yeah, because I don't know, like as I watch it, I always watch it from the eye of the center back, just out of habit, and I'm like, like been there, done that. But you're like, oh man, where have you been all my life, kind of a thing, because he's constantly tracking back, a give and go, even if he's out of position. I think, and that's what I've been saying when we first signed them, because you watch him at Leverkusen, there are times where he's out of position or sometimes he's thinking of attack first and stuff, but he has the speed to get back to where he should be. And I think that's similar to Gomez. I've said this about Gomez in the past, but more importantly, similar to Gomez, he has the willingness to use that speed to get back into where he should be. And he can kind of recover. And I know, and like you said, he was not going against an easy, like, oh, we were playing against the Japanese team. Obviously, he's going to track back and look good and stuff like that. He did, I thought, like really, really well. this chats and the puns
It's
are out of
just
control
it's
as
unbelievable.
always.
But
It
I
was like
was
that
gonna
this
go
morning
there.
too. I'll pass, but we were talking about Mamardashvili because I
We
did
have
mention
to.
it in the game. The concern when we signed them was, we had only seen him obviously in the Euros and stuff like that, but how well he was with the ball in his feet more than his like goalkeeping and all that kind of stuff. And shot stopping and stuff. A lot of people were throwing his like Mecca and these guys, the Thursday night crew. I'll throw a shout out over there, throwing all his like numbers, like when he was in Spain, like save percentage and stuff, which I always say does not show the actual truth because of like the situations you're in. I have been I have been impressed with his goalkeeping for one. I mean, the ridiculous size helps when he like really like reaches for some of these balls. But aside from that, I think he's pretty decent with his feet and even better when he hurls the ball. Because when I was talking about Wirtz earlier, in that game today, he had at least 4 or 5 times where he threw the ball and it was in front of like the player so he can start a counter. It wasn't one he had to control and turn around. So he could go with the speed of the ball. There were a couple of the Kirkas. There was one to Soboslai. There was one to Frimpong that I remember. And that's very impressive that a goalkeeper can actually start to counter like that.
He was great. I mean, honestly, he really was great. And I know he concedes 2 goals. Not much he can do about either of them. One's a janky, deflection. The other's an own goal.
Yep.
That save he makes in like the 80th minute in the upper left corner, like just throwing a big paw at it, like that's a class save. I'm with you. I thought the distribution was better than I expected it to be. I think his command of his box is also is a huge attribute, which it should be if you're that big, right? I mean, he's just a monster.
Yeah, he is.
You can understand now why they kind of jumped the shark and made the move last year when they knew they could get him for the release clause and they had it in the budget. It made total sense. He looked really, really well. And I think on a different day, we would be talking more about him as like, what a great appearance. But while we're throwing the Thursday night guys a little shade, I'll take my winning right now, Brian Shelton, because you told me he would never make an appearance at Anfield in a red shirt. And after today,
to be fair, he
lost
wasn't
that
wearing
bet.
red. To be fair to Brian there.
Playing for Liverpool, I think is what he meant. But he did make that one appearance. And I'm also pretty sure this wasn't about buying a player, giving another guy an extension. I think you saw today the future of goalkeeping at Anfield for, I'm not going to say a decade, but for quite a few years. And I'm not running Allison out of town tomorrow, but I'll tell you this right now. I'm comfortable that we're going to see more scheduled rotation this season than we did in seasons past.
Yes.
I do think that he's going to get matches. Like, I think he'll have tournaments. I think he'll get some Champions League matches. It's not a shot at Kelleher, but it won't take an Alley injury for him to get appearances, in my opinion.
Because I think, it does look like the succession plan. Just based on the money spent, it looks like the succession plan. And I think that's why it does make a lot more sense for him to be involved more. And we talked about this before. I do really think Slot approaches Champions League totally different this year. And I do think he puts, there's going to be a lot more rotation. I think we saw that, like we were doing. There's no point in winning every game. Doesn't matter. You still match up with PSG and stuff like that. So I think we will do a lot more rotation anyway, and that will give him some times. I don't know if it's like too soon to talk about like the Ali exit and stuff like that. I mean, because obviously we love Ali, and there's certain things he can only do. He is. I mean, we debate the best goalie in the world, and I think we know the goalies can go age-wise, but I think this lets you like entertain offers when the time comes, knowing you have a succession plan, and you don't necessarily have to follow it either. And maybe you actually instead, cash in on Mamardashvili if you're looking to have him here a lot longer, if you're looking to have Ali here a lot longer and sign him to an extension or whatever. It puts the club ultimately a good situation, and that's like the biggest thing over there. Deluded Steve is in the house. What's going on? And Mr. Bad Reds. late or really early. Over there, it's probably late. So, um, before we go, obviously, before we meet on Saturday, so not next Monday, we're gonna be here next Saturday for the 24-hour Podathon. There's a lot of moving parts to this, but now it feels like it really depends on Sesko's decision in terms of where he's going to do. That's going to determine how this Isak thing goes. But even then, I just don't think. Do you think? I guess I'll ask you, Yali. Do you think Newcastle ends up moving fast on this because they don't want the drama, or do they kind of like milk it as long as they can, so they don't have to play against Isak in match week 2, and kind of like get back at Isak a little bit?
I I was originally the one who was banging the drum. He wouldn't play, and they'd wait till the end of the window. It's starting to sound, and I know there were some reports tonight that Newcastle's bid was accepted by Leipzig. And part of this whole thing of why Arsenal moved away from the Isak or from the Sesko deal and went towards Gyökeres was that Arsenal got the feeling that Sesko cared as much about what happened for Leipzig as he did what was happening for himself. So the opposite of Isak.
Yeah.
Sesko wants it to go well for Leipzig. And if the truth of tonight's bid is they've offered 80 million plus 10, which is above his release clause, and they're offering to waive the sell-on clause, that's because Newcastle is saying we'll give you all 80 million up front. And how do you think they're giving that 80 million up front?
Yeah, exactly.
And if he really cares about what Leipzig cares for and wants to help Leipzig on his way out, then it feels like he'll accept this deal to Newcastle because United is never going to be able to stump up 80 million up front. And if you remember the Szoboszlai thing, the only reason we got him was because not only did we trigger his release clause, we deposited the entire amount at once. We didn't ask for installments.
Yeah.
Because Leipzig doesn't like to do installments. So I think it's starting to trend towards Sesko accepting Newcastle. And if he accepts Newcastle, they'll sign Vissa. They'll have their 2 strikers. They'll sell us Isak. It probably happens around maybe, let's just say, next Saturday afternoon. Give us something to talk about.
Dude, that will give us a lot to talk about. And God knows, 24 hours, we will need stuff to talk about. So you think they do pull the trigger to avoid the drama and say, you know what, good riddance then. See you later. We move on and not kind of like drag it out.
I think they're selling them no matter what, to be honest. And I think Eddie Howe's comments the last few days make it very clear that the manager is preparing for it. This whole thing, if you peel the onion back and you go into the layers of it, this is just a PR game to try to make it look to their supporters like they did everything in their power to keep him. And it was all him. They're just painting him the bad guy. And I'm gonna irritate some people here. It's kind of what we did to Fernando Torres when he wanted to go to Chelsea. We basically made him hand in a written transfer request. So we, the weaker club at the time, the weaker club at the time, could point to our supporters. That's the bad guy. And that's why Torres was so mad for so long. And it's not our fault that he went to Chelsea and was shite. And he took it out on their supporters. But the truth is, that's really what happened. And I think this is just us leveling up. And we remember what it was like to feel like that. So I have to remind myself that when I want to take victory laps and dumps on every one of these trolls all over Twitter, like these Newcastle supporters that are saying all this crazy shit on social media is because they're absolutely distraught at losing the best player to play at their club in years. And we were that way multiple times in the past. And we hated it when it was Suarez, when it was Torres. Even Coutinho, to be fair, we were really angry until we saw what happened. They should remember that too.
Yeah, and honestly, that this could be their. I was talking about this morning. This could be their Coutinho move themselves, turn the money around. And I don't understand what deluded Steve. I don't know who you're talking to that you constantly calling Yin in the first place. But for your information, it's Yim, not Yin. So there's going to be typos. Let's typo it properly and call it DM. But to answer this question, I think that was one of the things like Sobo and Virts. As I watched the game today, I'm like, man, like I don't know. I can see a world where, especially in certain games, where you're even when you're not chasing the game, but you want to like kind of like dominate possession and do the quality passing, I would not be surprised if he keeps sliding Gravenberg to that center back spot, similar to what he did with Neoni today, and has Maka, Saboslai, and Virs on the pitch at the same time. I did not get to see it today. That was kind of like my wish from the morning, to have Maka and Virs on the pitch at the same time, because I really do want to see that, because I think that would be crazy to watch. But both Soboslai and Gravenberg were amazing today. So it's almost like, how do you displace these guys? And then Maka is on the other side running the show by himself and stuff. So these are great, great problems to have. But I do see a lot of scenarios where we see all four on the pitch at the same time, with three in front of them, with like Gakpo, Mo, Ekitike, or maybe Isak. But we'll find out. Let's hope it is next Saturday, because that will be quite the celebration we have over there. But yeah, on the way out, I'll remind as well. I don't know if Dara's still here, but for anybody who's on us right now, do help us out. 9 more hours need sponsors, $100 to $500, individual, group, Porters Club, business, you name it. They can come on air, chat Liverpool with us. If Isak transfer is complete, we'll talk about that as well. And we'll have a good old time for 24 freaking hours at a pub. It should be interesting and dangerous at the same time. But at the end of the day, either way, we should be able to, I think, get a lot of funds for the 23 Foundation. That's kind of like what it's all about within this lack of sleep induced craziness that's going to happen. It's funny because like I'm actually scheduling the hours right now, and there are people like who are trying to get to earlier hours where we're more, well, relatively coherent, at least our regular levels of competency, because everybody knows once this midnight, it's going to be a shit show. My brother will be on after the midnight, I think, as yes, because we are sponsoring one of the hours along with them, was the Canaria Bros, because we do a podcast for Fenerbahce. And actually, as American Scouts watchers, you guys will get to see him regularly, because we're going to do a Rival Bros on here, because as we all know, he's a Jackass United fan. So that should be interesting. We'll just be talking regular Premier League stuff over here. So that's going to come on. Actually, it starts next week, right before the season kicks in. So good times ahead. We should have a lot of fun. Either way, we'll hopefully stay awake and have a lot of fun. Gally will be there. Bickler, when he's done destroying Pittsburgh, he'll be there. He'll head over to New York after destroying Pittsburgh.
I think he's at a baseball game right now, actually.
Yes, I know. He sent a photo, and I was going to ask him, but I never got to ask him. He said, great ball fields. And I looked, and I was like, looks like all the other ones. To me, the ball field is more about the fat ass that I am, is about like the different food that's being served and stuff. Because obviously, I'm not watching what the hell is happening in the middle of it. I don't think anybody in Pittsburgh is either. I don't think Pirates are any good. I don't think Pirates any good this year, because I don't think I've ever heard.
No, the Pirates are terrible. The Pirates are terrible, but they do have one of the better ballparks.
Okay.
Like in the like they got that bridge where you can actually walk in on the bridge and come into the stadium.
Like, okay. Yeah, it looks cool.
Bridge.
Like the view, like, the photo he sent us looks cool.
That part of it is cool. And I will say, like, if you're gonna go to a baseball stadium, it might as well have like either it should be like old like Fenway or Wrigley.
Yes.
Or it should be really entertaining, like Petco Park out in San Diego, or like the ballpark in San Francisco where they got the bay and you can watch guys bomb balls in and dudes are out there in kayaks. Like, do you imagine? We think people are losers for paying money and going and watching baseball. There are people in San Francisco who get in a kayak and wait for a potential opportunity to catch a ball in the water. And every time one of those idiots get the ball, they fall out of their goddamn kayak into the water, which makes me just think to myself,
I have never understood that. I have never understood that. They're not even like really worth anything ultimately, unless they're like a huge thing, right? So I just don't understand. When is the last time I attended a Major League Baseball game is actually
It's not that long ago, isn't it?
no,
You
not
went
that
to
long ago.
last summer.
But to be fair, my brother and my nephew were here, so it was more about showing them how boring the game is. No, showing them like giving him the experience of like a baseball game. We
And you
tried to
went
go to
to a
like a
fun-
football game as well, but there was no opportunity. It was more about showing them the environment and stuff, which is very, very different. I mean, compared to any game in the like any soccer football game in Europe, it is night and day. Honestly, any sporting events over here, I would find it difficult to compare. It is like night and day, even if it is NFL, if it's Major League Baseball. It's a different vibe altogether. It is more of like a. I feel like over here it's more like a family thing. It's more like an entertainment thing as opposed to. I mean, people would get shot if they did half the things they're doing over here, middle of the game. But I think it was only like what, like less than a year ago, we went to a Brewers game
Yeah, you
because
went.
they're
It
like a
was
good
when we
time.
were. It was when we were here last year in September, right? You went last August
Yeah,
with your brother
yeah.
to the Brewers game, and Brewers Stadium is another one of those. Like, it's actually a good ballpark, though. It has cool stuff. There's stuff happening. There's different
Yes.
foods. They got the slide. You got all the, like, your brother got an actual baseball experience. Listen, there's a difference between going to a baseball game and going to like a Yankees Red Sox game in the height of their like rivalry. Like, because I will say it's not. I'm not going to compare it to like United Liverpool and having to separate the fans. But like there was a time in my late college years, late 90s, early 2000s, right? When I'd go to a Yankee Red Sox game and it would genuinely almost be a fight breaking out in the entire stands with people like chanting at each other. I mean, there used to be like Jeter sucks, A-Rod swallows chants throughout the whole stadium. And then Red Sox fans would be like, there's kids in the section. And there'd be like college kids being like, take your fucking kids home. Like it got.
That's pretty much how, like, I mean, I guess soccer is like, it's kind of sadly goes with the territory. If you're going to bring in that,
I'm
you're
just saying,
bringing him in there.
But you are right. You don't find much of that outside of like Yankees, Red Sox, Packers, Bears, Lakers, Celtics. Like there are few rivalries in American sports that hit any level of anything towards.
Yeah, they get a bit closer, I would say. Like I've been to like a Sox Cubs game, for example.
Again, I'm saying it's like it's
yeah,
minute.
it gets
I'm not
closer.
trying to compare it, but it's if you take your brother and you bring him to a Cubs game and they're just playing the Houston Astros on a random Saturday afternoon. There's not really anything going into that except
more
for a bunch
about,
of
but I
people
mean,
eating hot
especially
dogs.
Wrigley, some of these ballparks, it's more about the experience, not really the game, because as we all know, the game sucks. But no, like overall, like a place like Wrigley, it's like the area after like around it and stuff like that. But one thing I did find out is I know way too much about baseball because I constantly was telling them about like different things that's happening, the rules and all that. Why is they're doing this and stuff? And like my brother is like, dude, I'm like, yeah, why do I know? It's like wasted brain cells. Years of listening to sports radio on my way to work and stuff. But we're already way over time, so we'll wrap it up tonight. We'll be back. You'll have more than enough of us next Saturday for 24 hours. So we will see you guys then. Until then, have fun and don't forget, spread the word. Get us a sponsor. 9 more to go. Take care, everybody.